Welcome everyone. This is our September 2020 IMSTEM Network meeting. Today we're going to be talking about strategies for increasing the number of females in advanced manufacturing. And to kick us off is Mimi Lufkin, NAPE's CEO Emerita. Take it from here, Mimi.
All right. I wanted to just say a couple of words about the Intermountain STEM project and to let you know that this is a project that's funded by the National Science Foundation and is really a collaboration between 6 states, Colorado, Idaho, Nevada, New Mexico, Utah, and Wyoming. And the mission of IMSTEM is to really focus on how we can bring effective practices to the forefront that address the broadening participation and closing achievement gaps in 7th through 12 and undergraduate STEM education. Today's presentation on connecting girls to advanced manufacturing programs and our great four presenters, one from NAPE and the other 3 from states represented in the network, are direct result of this mission of trying to bring these programs to bear. So in effort to get right into the content, I'm going to just take a minute here and introduce our presenters and give you all an opportunity to hear from them about the great work that they're doing. I'm going to introduce all 4 of them right up front and give them a chance then to pass the baton as we go through the presentation. So first we have Kathleen Fitzpatrick, who's the Senior Program Manager at NAPE. Then we'll have Jodi Johnson, who is the Project Coordinator for Power Careers at Idaho State University. Nicole Gervais, who is the Assistant Director of SIM Technology at Front Range Community College. And Patricia Sullivan, who's the Associate Dean, the College of Engineering and Director of Strategic Initiatives at New Mexico State University. We have a great group of folks. So Kathleen, I'm going to turn it immediately over to you and let you get started with us.
Great, thanks Mimi. So today I'm going to be talking about our Make the Future Connecting Girls to Advanced Manufacturing, ways to increase participation of females in advanced manufacturing pathways. This project is funded by the Toyota Foundation, and NAPE has been tasked with developing tools and strategies to increase participation and retention of females and students of color in career and tech ed, or CTE, as well as other STEM programs leading to careers in advanced manufacturing. These tools are intended to be used by educators and recruiters for communicating with students and parents at the K-12 and community college level. And I have to say, and some of you know me, this project is near and dear to my heart. I am a recovering engineer. Out of college, my first career was as an industrial engineer on the production floor at Hewlett-Packard making oscilloscopes. I was the only female engineer at the time, and later as a hiring manager, I came to realize that I could have done a better job of recruiting females and minority candidates for our engineering and technician programs. I know now it's important to make sure that systems are in place to support them and help them to feel like they belong. I've been working on this problem ever since, and here we are decades later, and still advanced manufacturing has a diversity issue. One of my twin daughters, whose 3rd grade teacher told me not to expect her to go to college because she's severely dyslexic, she is now an electrical engineer, and she still is the only woman engineer in a factory that makes consoles for Navy ships. So we need to be deliberate about our attempts to outreach to students and their parents to find the solution to the serious labor shortage in advanced manufacturing. Next. So NAPE is a national nonprofit focused on student access, educational equity, and workforce diversity. We got our start in the 70s with the sex equity language in the Vocation Education Act of 1976. Our focus has been to increase the number of females in non-traditional STEM and CTE careers, and more recently, broadening our focus to include all students who are underrepresented in these high-skill, high-wage, high-demand careers. Next. So, as you may know, we are facing a crisis beyond COVID with potential 2 million manufacturing jobs going unfilled and a low participation rate of people of color and women. We must find ways to attract females and those other underrepresented students more effectively in order to fill these positions. So NAPE has been asked by the Toyota Foundation to help solve this problem. Next. Our intent here is to help you build a strategy for success. First, inspiring more students to spark their interest, to begin to imagine themselves in these career paths. Second, helping them explore manufacturing as a possible career. And third, with strategies for expanding your recruiting reach by engaging parents, businesses, and community organizations who can amplify the impact of your recruiting events and messages. So in order to reach our goals, we need to create the right messages. And it's not always what you say, but it's how you say it. We've developed customizable resources designed with messages that research shows will resonate with girls and underrepresented populations. We need to connect with the right audience. Great messages are maximized through the right channels. So we will give you some guidance and resources to help you build an effective social media campaign and to reach the right audience. We need to utilize the right strategies. Recruiting girls and other underrepresented groups requires a comprehensive, equitable recruitment strategy. We give you some guidance on how to do that, with the ultimate outcomes of providing economic opportunities for students to earn a living wage, of filling labor demand, creating highly trained and diverse workforce, and ultimately an improved bottom line for businesses. Next slide, Mimi. So many of these resources are on our website. So they can be found at napeequity.org/special programs/make-the-future. And that link is also found in the material section of this webinar. So you can find that. And I'm going to be exploring some of these resources that are available on our website, predominantly focusing today on utilizing the right messages and looking at some of our effective strategies. Next slide. So based on the most current research on what works to attract and retain females and other underrepresented students in STEM, we curated 9 best practices or strategies for recruiting girls into advanced manufacturing. First, we offer 3 strategies to help you inspire girls to imagine themselves in these career paths. These strategies will help you motivate them to attend your recruiting events and to learn more. The first strategy is to reach out to middle school and high school students. It's never too early to start getting students thinking about their futures, and their decisions to pursue STEM careers, such as advanced manufacturing, are directly influenced by experiences that they have in elementary and middle school. Yet most of our efforts engage students in high school, and that's too late. The second of our strategies is to use an invitation and make it personal. Stereotypes about who participates in certain careers send strong messages to girls that they don't belong and are not welcome. It can stop them from taking the risk to explore some of these non-traditional careers, such as advanced manufacturing. So you can have an impact on their self-efficacy regarding their ability to succeed in careers by reaching out to them, inviting them, and ask them to bring a friend. The third strategy is to create exploration experiences for targeted students. Recruiting opportunities that target particular groups of students can combat stereotypes and offer girls and other underrepresented groups a chance to consider and explore careers in environments that can contribute to a sense of collaboration and community and provide an opportunity for them to explore a pathway in a low risk environment where they won't be evaluated. So those are our first three. The second three is once you've got their attention, we need to keep it. And the biggest part of your job is teaching potential students about the opportunities in advanced manufacturing. We offer 3 strategies to help you design your recruitment events and equitable instruction strategies to help girls explore manufacturing as a possible career. The first one, which I'm going to dig a little deeper in shortly, is this idea of engaging same gender, same race and ethnicity role models. Role models can help students see themselves in a career pathway and is a powerful determinant of girls' STEM self-efficacy. The next one is providing repeated exposure to advanced manufacturing careers. One and done is not enough. We find that students' perceptions of careers change over time, and their knowledge of the wide arrays of job opportunities in manufacturing is limited. So find multiple ways to expose students to these careers. Number 6 in this category, use hands-on activities. Giving girls a chance to try and ideally master an activity related to a non-traditional career will give her the self-efficacy to pursue that career. Higher self-efficacy leads to persistence in difficult subjects like STEM. And then finally, the last category down here is expand. So expanding your recruiting reach by engaging parents, businesses, and community members, it can amplify the impact of your events and messages. The 3 strategies that are aimed at this, the first one is to communicate with parents and caregivers. They have a huge impact on students' career decisions, especially African American and Hispanic families. Using culturally responsive strategies can greatly influence their participation, so be sure you engage with parents and provide them with experiences and information they need to inform and encourage their daughters in their career choices. It's important to partner with community-based organizations. They can build a strong programming by providing speakers and role models, equipment for hands-on activities, and other such benefits for you. And lastly, connect students with meaningful work-based learning opportunities. We'll be talking today about the Advanced Manufacturing Technician Program that is part of the Federation for Advanced Manufacturing Educators. And this is a good example of an apprentice program where students can learn and earn at the same time. All right, next slide. So the 17-page PDF, I just did a quick overview of the 9 best practices, but it's also in the material section of the webinar, or you can also find it on our website. So in addition to this PDF, there is also a 9 best practices webpage with a ton of links that are more dynamic than the PDF. There's a treasure trove of online resources for you to explore, kind of digging into each one of those best practices. You'll also find hour-long table talks that were focused on each of these best practices, including some guest speakers. Next slide. So one of the things that we talk about in the 9 best practices, excuse me, is the importance of getting the messaging right. People tend to value work in one of 4 ways. Boys tend to be more motivated by extrinsic work values or prestige, but girls are more motivated by the other 2 work values, intrinsic and social values. So it's important to make sure that your messaging is balanced and aligned to who your audience is. We find that a lot of recruiters in this space tend to tout the potential salaries and job security, but it's also important to balance that with messages that relate to the interesting problems in manufacturing that need to be solved using creative thinking, so an intrinsic message. Also, it's important to talk about how people work together collaboratively, how they make the world a better place by manufacturing products that make our lives better or easier. And both of those are focused on social values. So the key is to create messages that speak to all 4 quadrants. Next slide. So we have kind of congealed these into these messages. So we find that girls tend to navigate towards careers that allow them to be creative, to collaborate in teams, and to work in a caring field that provides a positive benefit to society. So creativity, collaboration, caring, we call those the 3 C's that have been connected to motivation and engagement for many students, particularly girls, women, and students of color. Next slide. So here is where you can find resources to help you send the right messages, including we've developed some printable posters, some editable flyers for your recruiting events, promotional cards, as well as we've developed some career guidebooks, manufacturing career guidebooks, one focused on students and families, and another one focused on teachers with lesson plans and activities to introduce students to manufacturing. Next slide. So one of the 9 best practices that I mentioned earlier talks about same gender, same race, and ethnicity role models. Role models can help students see themselves in a career pathway and are particularly powerful for developing girls' self-efficacy. Using role models that represent diversity in your classroom or your recruiting pool can enhance their power to change a girl's trajectory. So if you have guest speakers that come from industry, make sure that you include women and people of color. If you use student ambassadors, try to match them strategically based on their gender or race. And if you use some sort of print information, be sure to select photos of women and people of color. The power of role models is amplified when students see that the role models are similar to themselves and can relate to their stories and life experiences. So speaking to this strategy, we have created our Womanufacturing campaign. It's hard to say. We searched out some young women who are currently part of the AMT or Advanced Manufacturing Technician Apprentice Program and created some student-facing assets such as this animated poster, as well as several videos that can be used in recruiting events. There is a 12-minute video and a shorter 8-minute version of the video, as well as several shorter social media clips that tell amazing, inspiring stories for many of these girls to relate to. The links to the long video and the 1-minute trailer are in the material section of the webinar, or they can be found on our website. Next slide. So here is the microsite. Oops, sorry. Next slide. Oh yeah, so there's where you can find the microsite, and here you can see some images from the microsite that helps girls relate to these role models and includes many inspiring quotes and videos. Next slide. So the last section is connect with your audience. So this section on our website, it has a ton of social media tips and ready-made posts, as well as the manufacturing videos and over 25 manufacturing video resources in our YouTube channel to inspire students. And lastly, there is a Recruiting 101, which is really a summary of a case study where we helped a team in Alabama develop an equity lens to their recruiting. Next slide. So to wrap up, we covered only a fraction of the resources that we have available as part of this initiative. We talked about using the 9 best practices, which are proven strategies for attracting more girls to STEM and CTE courses, leading to advanced manufacturing. One specific strategy we discussed was using role models, and I would encourage you to look at our manufacturing resources. The videos they'll make you cry. They're so inspiring. So you can use those as your role models in your recruiting events, as well as the multitude of social media posts that we've developed. Today, we've also talked about creating the right messages, specifically talking about the 4 work values. The key is to create messages that speak to all 4 quadrants so we can attract all kinds of students to your program. And we looked briefly at some of the resources in the creating the right messages and the resources in the connect with your audience section. So I'm going to wrap up, and please let us know how we might be of assistance to you to improve the equity and diversity in your manufacturing programs. So at this point, I think I need to, I suppose, Mimi, we could probably take a couple questions if anybody wanted to enter some in the chat.
We could do that.
Or do you want to wait until the end?
Actually, I think let's wait till the end. And if people have questions, just pop them in the chat and we can catch them at the end. So I think that's great. Yeah.
All right. All right. So I'm going to turn it over now to Jodi Johnson. Thanks.
Thank you, Kathleen. Let me get my video going. Okay, my name is Jodi Johnson. I'm from Idaho State University, and we had a National Science Foundation grant for our Energy Systems Technology and Education Center, acronym is ESTEC, and providing opportunities for women in energy-related careers was our grant. It's Power Careers. So we had some fun playing with the wording there. Everything that Kathleen said has gone right along with our grant and what we have done. So I will explain some of that. Mimi, next slide, please. So our specific goals were to recruit women, and we were focusing mainly on women 25 and older. So we had had some previous success with that. We wanted to be able to make it inviting for all of these women to come into these careers. We also wanted to be able to make sure that we got them the technician jobs that they were looking for. And we needed to have a reason for them to want that, and that is being able to give back to society and to their family with providing the energy to them. Next slide. So we actually did what NAPE is providing for you. We had certain criteria that we wanted to meet. We wanted to inspire these potential students. So we found the best way to do that was to bring them into the programs and let them talk to the students, talk to the alumni, hear the stories and know what these women have gone through so that they know that this was something that they could go through as well. We also wanted them to explore. So whenever they came in looking for a particular program, we would make sure that we showed them 2 or 3 at least different programs so that they would get an idea of what the equipment looked like, what the labs looked like, so that they would be able to envision themselves. Again, during those tours, we wanted them to speak to students and speak to the instructors. We had hands-on activities for them so that they could actually get their hands on the equipment and try that. These students get more excited when they can get in there and touch things. Our electrical engineering technician program coordinator, he set up a whole board with motor control units and the power. So he would have to come in and turn on the power and have these students try hooking up the power. He would give them all the PPE to put on so that they could feel what it would be like to wear some of that, the safety goggles, the gloves, the hard hats, and try those different things. We also wanted them to bring their family and friends in because their family and friends are going to be the ones that are supporting them through this process. And we wanted them to see what it was like to be in this environment, and that it was going to be a difficult process, but that there was all the resources there for them. We also would connect these students by bringing in industry to these different career fairs and have them interact with the industries. And this was very important for the parents to be able to connect with those industries because they would know the names of the companies. But a lot of these jobs are what we call the hidden jobs. They're behind the scenes. People don't know what these jobs are unless they know somebody that is in them and actually working in that field. So we wanted to make sure that that not just the student, but the faculty or the parents and the friends knew what these students were getting into. It was a comfort to the parents to meet some of the industry because they would also find out what kind of benefits these different industries had. Many of them have amazing benefits with health and educational benefits. And so this was something that was of interest to the parents, to the younger students, but very interesting for the students that we were targeting with the older students because they already had families that they wanted to be able to provide the insurance and have the educational benefits and the different opportunities that these industries provided. Let's see, next slide, please, sorry. So the retention is a lot of the same things that we did for the recruitment. We connected these students with instructors, with the alumni, with the current students, with more prospective students. We had activities that we had ongoing all year long. We met for lunch on a regular basis where we would bring in industry people. We would bring in alumni to speak to the students. One of the most inspiring things to hear is somebody that has gone through the program and been successful in getting the job that they desired, a job that they loved going to, waking up every morning and going to this job, and knowing that this was a career, not just the job. A particular student that I remember coming in a lot to talk to the students, she was a pizza restaurant manager, and that was the top of the game for her. She had worked there for many years, and the best she could do would be to be that manager. And she knew she wanted to do something more and be able to provide for her kids. So she came through our program. She graduated. She went on to get a really good job, moved her family down to Texas. They were so excited to get down there. They bought a home. They've gone on vacations. She said, I never imagined taking my kids on an airplane on vacation. And so they've been able to do that multiple times now. Her kids are now looking at what they're going to be going into when they get to go to college because they're excited about being able to go because of how excited their mom was to go to college and get this wonderful career. And she contributed that to all the great things that they were doing now. So those stories are so important. We also made sure our students got to see all of the faculty in the Energy Center so that they could know who they could go to and ask for help. We made sure that they were introduced to all of the different resources that were available, the tutoring centers, the study centers, things like that. We also made sure that they knew that our Power Career staff was there to introduce them to anything that they may need help with. They could come to us as we called ourselves the one-stop shop kind of thing. We wanted them to be able to know that they could come to us for anything that they needed. We had resources with industry where if they had questions about different jobs that they could be doing in the industry, because it was wider than just the energy sector. It went into manufacturing and many others. And so we would be able to call up somebody and have them talk to these students about the jobs. We also would provide different conferences, workshops, and things for the students to learn as much as they could possibly learn about these careers and the programs they were going into. So having all of that together in one place for them and having all of the students come together made a community for these students where they knew they fit in and how they could work with each other and help each other through this process. And building that community, working with all the students, faculty, staff, and the alumni coming back was just a phenomenal experience for them to be able to know that this is something they could do. I love the fact that NAPE has all of these resources for you, because a lot of this we had to learn the hard way. And so look really well at the materials, because a lot of the materials that we had were just like that, making sure that we had the pictures of the women on the brochures so that the women could see themselves doing this. Also, we did a video and showed the women speaking about their careers and about the program. So that also is very helpful. And then finally, the last slide is just a quick story about how we have been successful. We had Northrop Grumman did this article on reaching a milestone with diversity. They had a team that was working on a rocket booster that was more women than men on this group. It was 5 women out of 8 team members, and 3 of those women were our women that had gone through our program and graduated and gone on to work. And so this has been very exciting for us. So that's all I have for you. I will answer questions later. And next we have Nicole Gervais. All yours, Nicole.
Thank you. As Jodi said, I'm Nicole Gervais, and I am from the Front Range Community College and the CIM, which is the Center for Integrated Manufacturing. When we started our programs, we first started with precision machining technology, and now we have 3 other programs in addition to that: optics technology, automation engineering technology, and electronics engineering technology. Our main goal with these programs was to solve the skills gap in Colorado. And we've worked really hard with industry partners in figuring out where the major skills gap are. For instance, with precision machining technology in the state of Colorado, there are about 350 jobs a year that go unfilled. And Front Range Community College produces about 100 students a year entering that specific industry. Next slide, please. When we worked with our industry partners in the beginning, we made some strong commitments about teaching students the technical skills and using industry experienced instructors. All of our instructors are currently working in the industry or transitioning from working in the industry full-time to teaching part-time and working part-time, but they all have current relevant skills to be teaching the students. Also, we provide job assistance. We do work with students with resume writing. So as was mentioned previously, we like to be a one-stop shop for the students. Many of the things that we also heard from the employers was that students didn't have the professionalism skills. So we have worked with in our curriculum design to put in professionalism skills. Our students wear uniform shirts, which many of them have to do on jobs. They are, of course, required to be there on time and not use their cell phone. We've heard from many employers that that is a big disruption in the workplace. We've even considered installing time clocks in the classroom so that students understand that they are expected to be there in time and clock in and out. Next slide, please. Besides in the 4 main programs that we have, those are credit programs. So students can earn certificates or they can earn 2-year Associates of Applied Science degrees. However, we have a multiple range of students who are incumbent workers who want to upskill. So we created a workforce fast track program. These programs occur in the evenings. So if we have somebody who is working full time, maybe they stumbled upon the job because their roommate worked there and the company was hiring, and so they were able to get in, or maybe they got into a machine shop or some other technical company as an assembly technician, but they decided, hey, I really would like to learn those skills and to be able to advance my career. So we created these non-credit courses in the evenings for those people. For instance, I had a gentleman, he was about 38 years old. He was working as a janitor. He had been a janitor for 10 years at the St. Vrain Valley School System here in Colorado, in Longmont. And he had 2 kids and he had to work full time, but he realized after being a janitor for 10 years, he really had no place for advancement there. So he was the perfect candidate to come and take our non-credit courses in the evening to learn the skills. And by the time he was done with the intro class, he had already received a job in the industry. Next slide, please. We were able to develop these programs from a 2016 TACT grant. And as you can see, we received $3.9 million. And a lot of that money was spent on program development, equipment and supplies. Our facility here, just in machining alone, we have about $1 million worth of equipment. And now that we've grown programs, we probably have about $3+ million of equipment in the facility. So we are still in-person learning during COVID, which is great. Our students want in-person learning. They don't want to be learning online. That's why they come to this industry, because they're more tactile. And it's really hard to teach somebody how to use a piece of equipment if they're not actually using the piece of equipment. So we are in-person learning. But in the first 48 months of our program, we trained over 500 machinists. And unfortunately, we have only had 5% women in these programs. At one point, when the machining program was very new, we conducted an intro to machining class for women only. We had to do this on the non-credit side of the house because of Title IX. So Title IX, although it is promoting more opportunities for women, it is equal opportunity. So if you have a class for women only, then you would have to have a class for men only on the credit side of the house. So we did do this on the non-credit side of the house. But then we did have 9 women join the class, which was very exciting, but we saw then a decrease some enrollment in our other classes. And then it ended up being a little cost prohibitive for us because we were running 2 classes at the same time, where we would just prefer to have one class of 18 to 24 students than 2 classes of like 9 and 6 students. So unfortunately, we haven't done that since, but we have had a hard time recruiting more women. Now that we have multiple programs, we do see a few more women here coming into the automation engineering technology and the electronics engineering technology program. And then in our optics technology program, last semester we had 1 woman. But now that we have more programs and are growing, we do see this a little bit more. We have worked with initiatives like Women and trying to promote this. We also have no co-manufacturing partnership in our area, which we try and promote women in manufacturing. I do talk with many employers who really seek women in manufacturing for a lot of varieties of reasons. They feel they express sometimes that women have high attention to detail and things like that. They have smaller hands, so sometimes depending on what something they're working with, like in medical devices, they're working with very small pieces, so they have a higher dexterity. And so we're really excited about the programs that have come, or the materials that have come from NAPE, and to be able to use those, and also trying to use those and get those out to our high schools and even middle schools to inform students that this is an opportunity for them, and they can be making these choices while they're in high school rather than waiting until they're in their 20s and sort of at the end of their ropes with a different job and getting into this industry. So I'm really looking forward to using these materials and distributing these materials. And now I would like to pass it on to Patricia Sullivan.
Thank you, and wanted to share a little bit about our experience here at New Mexico State and how we've worked to get girls and at all ages involved in advanced manufacturing. Just as some context, New Mexico State is a Hispanic serving institution, and as such, with our engineering program highly regarded, we are a key recruiter target for a lot of industries that are looking to diversify their population and their workforce. And as a result, we started having conversations with these employers about how do we get more of our students into your companies, and are they well prepared? Are they ready to hit the ground running? And we were interested in what kinds of programming we could do to support our students and help them prepare better. So next slide. So in our efforts, we started looking at some of the changes driving engineering careers and specifically looking at manufacturing. We started looking at reports about generational changes, and you look at what the baby boomers did, you look at the millennials, now you have the Generation Z and the post-millennials that are coming up, and you start thinking about how do they learn different, and are we using old methods to try and educate new populations of students that think differently. And so we started looking at different studies, and some of these are recent studies that I wanted to bring up, but one is about a 2019 study by L2L Manufacturing Index that really is looking at women in manufacturing and the generational ties. And what's interesting is they started looking at Generation Z is really more attuned to manufacturing than, say, the baby boomers or even the millennials. And a lot of that has to do with the rapid evolution of technology and the way changes are happening in the way people communicate, they interact, and they learn. And if you think about this generation that we're working with right now, they're very self-driven. And self-driven, I'm talking about they're resourceful, they're tech savvy. You give them something and they'll go find a YouTube video and they'll teach themselves something. They're inquisitive, they're innovative, they're very entrepreneurial. So if you team that up with technology and some of the changes that are driving manufacturing, you look at additive manufacturing and automation, robotics, cybersecurity. One of the popular things right now is greening of the supply chain. And as we all know with COVID, there's a lot of talk about reshoring and nearshoring of the supply chain. So we had to do some deep dive thinking, not just during COVID, but pre-COVID. We were having to look at how do we better prepare our students for the workforce, and specifically in manufacturing. Next slide. So we started looking at ways to learn from other people. We're not in the habit of repeating what others have done. We want to learn from what others have done. We had an opportunity in 2014 to join a cohort led by Stanford with an NSF-funded project called Pathways to Innovation. And this project was really intended to get more diversity and innovation embedded within the engineering curriculum. So we had a team of faculty here at New Mexico State. There were about 4 of us that went through the cohort training. We went to the D School at Stanford. We learned about how they do things around entrepreneurship. We went to different universities across the country. We looked at what their models were. We came back and we talked to our industry partners, and we tried to think about how do we take the things that we've learned from others and apply them to what works here at New Mexico State. So we decided one of the things we wanted to do was build a makerspace. Our biggest challenge was a lot of kids get hands-on experience through student organizations in the engineering curriculum. But when you have a workforce that is very diverse and comes from very different socioeconomic backgrounds, that's a big assumption that they have the time to put into those programs. So, you know, a lot of these, whether it's Concrete Canoe, the Mini Baja, some of these other programs, they take a lot of time after school, after classes in the evenings. Well, if you are supporting a family, you have a job, you are maybe taking night classes, you're taking a lot of different things competing for your time, you may not be able to participate in those programs. So now we fast forward into the career fairs, and these students don't have resumes that add depth to what makes them marketable. They don't have anything to talk about. So we decided we wanted to go with a makerspace because it would give our students an opportunity to get involved in something, give them some experience in a hands-on, real-world environment, and start building their skill set. So we started looking for a facility, and if those of you haven't been on university campuses, facilities prior to COVID are pretty hard to find. And we actually found about a 1,500 square foot facility that had just been vacated by an NSF program. And we moved into it, and it had a lot of, it was basically a suite type building or facility. And our first deal was, let's knock all the walls down and put portable stuff, and let's do all of these things. And we talked to industry, we started getting some funding from them, and we realized real quick that all our funding was going to go into repurposing the facility, and we wouldn't have money for anything in terms of programs. So we decided we were just going to move in, live with it the way it was, and make it work, and then evolve as time went on. So we pulled a faculty group together. We identified some things that we wanted to focus on. One of them was we wanted to align the makerspace with some of our experiential learning. So whether it was the Mini Baja, the steel bridge competition, some of the other things students were involved in, or our capstone projects. We wanted to elevate the level of learning that our students were doing and give them the facilities to actually make their innovations come to life. We also found that a lot of students were struggling in some of the skill sets that they needed to do these things. So you had electrical engineers that were trying to do rapid prototyping, and they didn't know CAD. They couldn't use the 3D printers. You had mechanical engineers that could design anything, run it through a 3D printer, and then they wanted to automate it. They didn't know the programming. They didn't have some of the skills in the electronics. Some of them were wanting to scale it to maybe manufacturing, but they didn't have that scalability, so they involved the industrial engineers. So we started building these teams, but we did it through building workshops. We would have one on robotics, we would do one on software design. We just started doing these pop-up workshops and getting kids involved in skills. These were no cost, they were no credit, they were out of the curriculum time, and they filled up within a day of when they were offered. That kind of led us into the pop-up design challenge. Again, we were seeing kids that were missing these opportunities to get involved in something because they couldn't do an internship or a co-op, the typical things that build your resume. And so we started doing these weekend design challenges with industry. So kind of think of the Houston, you have a problem, and everybody's got to come together for the day and figure out how to solve something. So at 8 o'clock in the morning, students would come in, we'd roll out the design challenge with industry, and they would have to come into teams, and they may be teams they developed, depending on the challenge. They may be people they've never worked with before and across disciplines. And about 4 or 5 o'clock, they came together and they had their solutions. Those were amazing, and those continue today. The other thing we looked at was creating a co-op program. We wanted the students to learn management skills and leadership skills. So we created a co-op program where the students are actually paid to manage the innovation space. And by doing this, we created an inclusive environment. Next slide. So one of the big things we had specifically around the leadership is the mentoring program. And between the faculty and our industry partners and our alumni, we were able to develop some very strong mentoring programs, and a lot of it focused around the co-op aspect of things. So students were able to meet one-on-one with alumni from industry and industry partners that came for recruiting. And the innovation space became the go-to place for people to gain skills that they could talk about, leadership things that they could engage in. We had one student that told me it was the place where she learned design thinking. She learned how to challenge herself. She said, I learned to think big and dream big. And she's now working at Intel. One of the young lady in the blonde, she just finished her PhD and she's going into biomedical manufacturing. The young women in the middle, they're all working either in defense contract manufacturing or biomedical manufacturing, and the other young ladies working out at White Sands. So they've been mentored well, they've gained confidence. There was a lot of discussion earlier about self-efficacy, and these students are getting that in this environment. Next slide. So you fast forward to where we are today, and we have a new dean. He's been here now about 3 years, and he was so impressed with the work we did in the innovation space. He took that on as a personal mission of growing it. And he went to the state legislature, he went to alumni, and he got an investment of about, well, it's probably now exceeded $1 million to support the innovation space. What does that mean? It means that we now have grown our facility. We've decided not to take down the walls. Now instead we've moved into 2 facilities that exceed over 10,500 square feet. We now have the innovation space as the overarching facility for our experiential learning and capstone project engagement. We gutted the shop you see in the far right. We gutted what looked like a World War II type museum in our equipment. It's now one of the state-of-the-art shops and probably a 2-state region. They have new equipment in the shop or the makerspace part, 3D printers, laser printers, water jet. I mean, it is an impressive facility. If you think about the female engagement, because of our co-op position, our mentoring, and just our inclusive environment, over 50% of the students that have worked in co-op have been females. They're gaining leadership skills. They are the prime target when recruiters come to campus of who they want to hire. And the other is that students are able to relate their experience in the innovation space and their ability to secure internships, co-ops, and permanent jobs. They now have something to talk about. They can relate what they're doing, and they can do it with passion. Next slide. And that ends our program. Thank you. I want to turn it back to Mimi.
Excuse me. Thank you, Patricia and Jodi and Nicole and Kathleen. That was great information. Really excited about the programs that you've developed. It's amazing. And, you know, it's not easy to build an advanced manufacturing program because of the resources it requires to invest, but also the fact that you're all in different places in terms of how you're addressing the issue of diversity in your programs. And we hope that the resources we've developed can help you continue to move the needle and reach out to students in earlier grades, as well as those students who are already in your institutions. So well done. I want to just give everyone a chance if there are any additional questions. I know there's been some conversation going on in the chat box, and some questions have been answered. If anyone is feeling like they haven't had their question answered, you could ask it again. I know that I'm just scrolling through here for a second. There was some discussion about availability of online learning around advanced manufacturing activities. And Kathleen shared a resource about a virtual welding program that you can access. So hopefully you all had a chance to look at that. I did want to say, I'm going to just sort of wrap this up. I'll keep an eye, maybe Kathleen can keep an eye on the Q&A, see if there's any additional questions. I want to remind you all to go to also to our website and check out the resources that are available on the IMSTEM website. This will be the last, this is a grant we had from the National Science Foundation, a 3-year grant, which we just completed. This is the last network meeting that we'll be holding specific to the IMSTEM activities. All of the network meetings that were held quarterly over the last 3 years were recorded and are on the website. You can go take a look at any of them. Lots of really good topics that are relevant today. We also have been producing a monthly newsletter, and those are all also archived on this website. And there's lots of good information there. We will be maintaining the IMSTEM sign up for the network. So if you are interested in connecting with your colleagues in Colorado, Idaho, Nevada, New Mexico, Utah, and Wyoming, please go to this to the website and sign up. And we're exploring the opportunities around creating an affinity group for the Intermountain STEM work moving forward. So please, if you haven't signed up for the listserv, please do that. In the future, we will continue to highlight the activities of these 6 states in our pipeline, the Pipeline Press newsletter that we send out every month. So keep an eye open for that. When you sign up for the IMSTEM listserv, you'll also be included on the Pipeline Press listserv. So you'll receive at least a monthly update from us. And that newsletter is specific to looking at equity in STEM and providing resources for those activities. I'm going to pop up now. This is contact information for all our presenters. If you want to do any follow-up, you can reach them here at their email addresses. And again, thank you all for joining us today. There will be an evaluation that will come into your inbox once you log out of today's meeting, and it might also even pop up on your screen. Please complete it. We need that information for our NSF final report. And again, thanks to all of you for joining us. And we hope that you will go check out the great resources that Toyota USA Foundation helps support the creation of Make the Future. And there's lots of great stuff on the Make the Future website. And again, if you have any questions, please let us know or need any assistance. We appreciate your joining us today. Thank you. And thanks again to all our presenters. It's a great presentation.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole.
Thanks,
Yep.
everyone.
Thanks, Kathleen.